We have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Scholars of Wrestling Show, episode 309. I'm your man behind the microphone, Scholar Jeff. Elsewhere on the screen is the always sweet-smelling Scholar Tarek. Scholar Tarek, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Yeah, you are right about that. Sweet smelling. Well, in all actuality, fool, I'm actually a little sad this week
A little sad. Why sad?
because due to unfortunate circumstances, my partner in crime, Scholar Brian, cannot join us this week. So once again, I have to put all the weight of the Scholars of Wrestling on my shoulders because that's all I ever do. Is just put so much weight and so much oomph to make the Scholars of Wrestling the best show it could possibly be. Being the best, being undisputed.
Speaking of undisputed oomph, also joining us this week, the always squeaky, so fresh, so clean, Scholar Charlie. Scholar Charlie, how are you doing tonight, sir?
All that oomph.
How
Tarek, that must be such a tough chore for you. My heart, it's just breaking. I'm sorry that you have to go through so much. I really am.
I'm sorry, Jeff has to put so much oomph to put you in the same league, at least being called undisputed. Okay.
Clean.
Sure.
Squeaky clean. Undisputed. Boom.
Your first mistake was listening to what I've got to say.
No, your first mistake is giving him such a intro like that, where he still needs a lot of work to think he could be undisputed.
Don't you worry though, because I'm going to help both you and Brian with taking the weight of championships off your shoulders. And that is undisputed.
Sure. Good luck with that.
We're not even 3 minutes in and we're already trash talking. It's going to be a lovely episode, won't it?
If I had a cookie, I would have tossed it to you by now.
Good, because I deserve that fucking cookie.
You poor thing.
Well, speaking of special cookies and lovely treats, we got to kick things off the right way. We've got a lot of things to cover on this episode of Scholars of Wrestling, but we got to kick things off the right way with a little segment we like to call Backstage News.
Indeed, we start the show as we always start the show by peeking behind that curtain and checking in on a little
Backstage News.
News.
We're missing Brian, meh. Yes, friends, even though Brian cannot join us, the Backstage News never stops flowing. And the biggest, arguably one of the bigger news stories of this past week was supposedly the WWE's brand new social media policy. Apparently, the story goes that WWE does now not want WWE contracted talent to be using their character names on any sort of outside media, whether it's anything from social media to a Twitch channel or other money-making ventures like Cameo. I've been hearing some reports back and forth, but it's caused a whole lot of stirrup and a whole lot of pushback against WWE administration lately. A whole lot of information still coming out, whole lot of even more opinions about it. So no, I feel like enough time has passed. Information has come and gone. Thoughts and ideas have been exchanged. Now that this week has come and gone, let me field it with you guys. What was your impressions about this, and where do you see this all going? Is this sustainable, and is it reasonable?
You can go ahead and start this one, Charlie. Prove your worth.
Oof.
We're not even through backstage news yet.
All right. I'm starting to wish that you win the championship, sir. Because it would be just a freaking blast to take it from you. But as far as this policy is going, from what I've seen in rebuttals or responses to it, it seems like people aren't too threatened. I've seen Austin Creed go on and be like, don't worry, guys, we're going to film as many episodes of Up, Up, Down, Down as we can until we get told we can't anymore. I don't know. I just have a feeling like within the next couple weeks, it's going to be people testing their limits and like testing the brass of this potential threat. I don't think anyone is like, oh shit, we better stop doing what we're doing, guys. We're going to be in trouble. I think all of their shows will still go on until it really becomes, until there's really like a big punishment from it. I think everyone will still be doing their shit.
Fool, initial thoughts, opinions, and final thoughts on this as it's been forming.
Well, the thing is, using the wrestler's name actually is more of the compromise about this. Before this compromise, they were thinking WWE was putting out that they can do their wrestler names, and they couldn't even use their real names because, according to WWE owns their real names as well. Sure, that goes over pretty well with the roster.
Independent contractors.
Oh, yeah. Oh, everyone has to keep pointing that out, especially Andrew Yang. But when it comes,
that was weird.
Yeah.
Oh, it just shows as he said, it just shows the greed of the higher ups when it comes to WWE's, more, in my opinion, specifically Vince McMahon, because he's the one that's been really pushing about this ever since the AJ Styles Twitch Q&A to Lana doing an energy drink commercial. Mm-hmm. And apparently it was Stephanie McMahon that used the compromise. Okay, you can professional wrestler names don't use, but you can use your real names if you switch your account, Twitch accounts, and your whatever, Cameo, anything, if you want to do outside promotions. Essentially, what this reminds me of is just how what they did with Zack Ryder, how he pretty much used an outside social media, pretty much a third party to get himself over. And people are really the wrestlers are using this one as kind of just more alternative ways of getting their name out, since in certain aspects WWE is kind of failing at that, at least when it comes to really pushing this talent. Unless you're not in the main event, Vince McMahon doesn't really care what's going on from upper mid card to low card. He doesn't really seem to care, and the product really shows it, especially on Raw. When it comes all down to it, yeah, they really have no right. Maybe when it comes to their professional wrestler names, sure. But when it comes to them using their real names, they're just basically going, no, we're going to keep doing this. And they have until, what was it, October 30th?
Something like that. Or
to make these changes.
Yes. Charlie, your response?
I don't get about this is, why do you want to own their real names when you've making it a hobby to eliminate half of their fake names on half of these guys?
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about, where I'm like, I feel like there's been so much misdirection and misunderstanding about what they're actually going for here, that I'm taking that particular part anyway, just worth a grain of salt. That being said, however, I feel like I'm not sure if any of you caught Busted Open at any point today, but earlier today, Mark Henry on that show presented a viewpoint that I hadn't really considered in the middle of all this. and that is using what some of their side hustles or whatnot as tangible proof of their earning potential in future contract negotiations. Like, I don't know where this statistic came from, but they listed that Paige on her new Twitch channel is it okay. Scholars Quick Talk. If you had to guess, how much is Paige making per month on that Twitch channel? Any guesses?
I have no idea what anyone on Twitch, let alone Paige.
Honestly, it's hard to really come up with a number, but it's still just basically them just basically getting their image out, pretty much making them their own brand.
$60K a month.
Good
Paige.
for her.
Go Paige.
Yeah.
Seriously, good for her.
And Mark Henry even said, like, she is not an active wrestler anymore. It's not like she's like being threatened with her spot being taken or whatever. She'll still be fine. Plus, because she's
her managing the Kabuki Warriors was such a necessity.
Yeah, but even so,
she should be on TV though.
Yeah, and here's that proof that if she stops doing this, which she's not, she almost instantly switched it over to, Soraya or something like that.
It's okay, guys. Paige has always found a way to make it on the internet.
You're not wrong. Technically, you're correct, which is the best kind of correct. But even so, that's just one of many. Supposedly, Big E on Cameo is one of the highest earners on what?
If you listen to the New Day podcast, he's all about that Cameo cash cow.
Yeah, supposedly out of all the WWE personalities, he's actually one of the highest earners on Cameo.
Yeah.
Which, again, we're talking 5 figures. That's nothing cheap.
Yep.
So that's another thing is revenue lost.
30 to 50 a month.
Yeah, that's what I heard as well, and that's wild. And it's one of those things that, you can bring that to contract negotiations, saying that Mark Henry made the point of, I'm looking to take care of my family, and if you want the most from me, I gotta, and you don't want me to do this anymore, you gotta compensate for this. So my money, my mind and my money is on the job at hand. Give me something here if you're not going to let me do this. But honestly, I really hope they're still allowed to do this. I hope that the feedback is felt, because I'll be honest, I was gonna do some cameos this year for Christmas.
The response of the roster about this, and just how negative the response is from the roster. This threat is not going to hold that much water.
Completely.
Especially if they had the compromise of using their real names, and WWE don't pull that bullshit of we own you type ordeal, even though you're not really you're under contract as independent contractors, not as full-on employees. So in a way, you may own the character, but you don't own the person.
I feel like the only solid last name that Vince owns is Rhodes, and that's out of spite.
Mm.
I don't think he's going to do that to guys that work under him,
Mm.
It's just really a shame, just the big difference of just communication between employees and backstage, like the administration itself. It's such a complete mess when you look at the differences between WWE and AEW, for example. You just look at just the big difference between how the business is run backstage, and you just think, oh, okay, they're showing, AEW is showing the positives, and you could just see the negatives going even through the product of WWE.
going as far as to show the alternative career paths that half these wrestlers have for their advertisement for their wrestling. So they're really sticking it to them there and on Twitch. I love how they're shoving Twitch down fan, like the jab that they're taking with Twitch. AEW. It's fantastic.
So all that being said, closing out with just a really quick Scholars Quick Talk. Does Cameos strike you as anything that you would actually do? Have you done it? And if not, would you have an interest in getting a cameo from anybody?
I'm not really sure. I guess I just would need to look more into it.
I'd want to see what the big cameos are all about. I wouldn't want to see like these washed up wrestlers that are doing it. But like one year, my brother wanted to get me a Bret Hart cameo. I'm like, I've met him and I've talked to him, and that's about the extent that I need from Bret Hart. If it was like a legend that I dug, like Michaels, if he was doing it, I'd be all about it. Biggie, I would love to see what it is are about because they sound very entertaining. But other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm still sort of looking up Biggie's cameo, just seeing what he's doing.
I'm sure you do, but I'm sure they might have
$125. Wow.
Oh boy, really?
No wonder he's raking it in.
Yeah, for real. But imagine like waking on Christmas morning and being like, "Oh, Tarek, don't you dare be sour." That would be fucking awesome.
I'm just looking at his page right now, and it's just him making the same face all for people's birthdays. His eyes are bugging out of his head. He's just got the big cheesiest smile I've ever seen.
I took a picture with him with that big cheesy smile. So yeah, so did you.
Him once wasn't enough.
It's just nice to experience it in person. Absolutely. Am I right?
Oh, brother. Well, we'll certainly be paying close attention to how this goes. Hopefully, I'll still be able to get some cameos out by the end of the year. But even before all that, the year 2020 is still not over for a whole lot of WWE employees because apparently there was another round of releases. 60 plus people, if Wrestling Inc. is to be believed, have been released in the corporate office, including two of the more notable names are IRS, Bray Wyatt's father, and longstanding employee of the company, Gerald Briscoe. Both men, among 58 other people, have been released by WWE as of today. Immediate reactions, feedback, thoughts from losing IRS and Gerald Briscoe.
You want to take this one first, Champ?
Really, just all I can really say is just more cutbacks for them to put money in their pockets. Because that's essentially what the April cutbacks were as well. So just more sour tastes being left in my mouth when it comes to how business is being run in WWE. That's like.
Charlie, any imminent reactions from this, or does it seem like nothing surprises you at this point?
Yeah, you know, the second that Vince starts one of these firing sprees, it's going to be in the uprights at this point of like dozens and dozens of people. I'm really surprised that the only two big names were Gerald Briscoe and IRS. From what I've heard so far, I've heard some of the. I think I heard that some of the major trainers at NXT were released. I mean, at the center.
Yes, actually, not there, but apparently producer Sarah Stock.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, got released along with them too. Yeah.
They were the three names that were announced recently.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's been like, as far as I can remember, like since 2014, that once Vince starts this, it's like gonna go for days, and you're just gonna hear. I'm sure we'll hear more names over like the weekend, but yeah, nothing really shocks me when it comes to McMahon cleaning out for the season anymore.
And from what I'm understanding, the bigger name is more aiming towards the people who mainly work on live shows and house shows. And since they're not really doing much of that, those are pretty much departments getting ready to be cleaned house, as it will.
Like I said to you guys before taping, I'm gonna look into the whole Gerald Briscoe thing though, because I want to know if this was the first time that Gerald Briscoe was released. Because if not, his name's been awfully quiet between the Attitude Era and now. So I'm interested in looking at that.
Yeah, indeed. It's a real shame that there are still so many casualties from this, but hey, we'll have to see how this goes. But it does make sense that this would be, if all of the people who have been released are indeed from live event planning and all of that, you know, there's not much you can do about that. But moving on from that to something a little bit happier, we got All Out from AEW just recently. Unfortunately, I did not get the chance to watch all of this. I just saw some sporadic clips. But it seemed like this show is radically different than what I was expecting. Did either of you get a chance to see this show?
Not in its entirety, more highlights than anything. Excuse me. But just from the initial response that I've been seeing is that this was one of the weaker AEW shows, and certain aspects definitely showed it, as from Evan Bourne's Shockmaster moment to Darby Allin getting put in a body bag filled with thumbtacks, which it continues just my not being a humongous fan of him. I'm in the minimal. I'm like in the minimal crowd on that. I'm not particularly. I see the appeal of Darby Allin, but he's just not for me. To the unfortunate Sammy Guevara Matt Hardy spot, that them overshooting the tables and him getting a big serious concussion out of it, getting knocked out for, did they say like 45 seconds, correct? Like
I
he
didn't
was
hear any
out
statistics.
cold for 45 seconds.
Yeah, and he was groggy for he was groggy for the rest of the match, but yeah.
Granted the last couple matches from Orange Cassidy, Chris Jericho being thrown into a giant vat of mimosa, and Jon Moxley versus MJF was a load of fun. And all in all, it was just, I'll just say it right now, I'll just give my official hair ratings for what I saw. It definitely was the weakest AEW show that I've seen, but the good spots were really good and the bad spots were really bad. So I'm just gonna put it right down the middle and just give it a classic goatee. Granted, I'll probably give it a low classic goatee.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sold on some of the results alone. It was sort of
Especially the Dark
disappointing.
Order. That was a shame.
Yeah, for me though, it was more like I really wanted to see MJF finally win the big one. I'm hoping that they continue this feud. I'm hoping they revisit sometime very, very soon and MJF gets what he deserves. But even then, it seemed like all of my focus was just on the Matt Hardy situation and just that one spill. And it's just, that's one of the ugliest spills I've seen in recent memory. Charlie, you had something?
No. Finish with your rating.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this like Tark said, this show to me was the word I'm going to go with is not weak, but it is disappointing to me in on multiple levels. Again, it wasn't horrible, but there was a lot that really drastically fell short for all the wrong reasons. So I can't even go as high as Tarek here. And as much as it pains me to say it, between Matt Hardy getting hurt and just sort of the passable nature of a whole bunch of the matches, and the fact of the result of, again, the world title match, I'm gonna have to give this one 2 out of 5, a peach fuzz.
Took the words right.
Granted, I was being generous with my
You
rating.
are being generous, yes.
You definitely were.
Those last couple matches really did. Hell, even the women's title match was a very big positive for me.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, even the tag title match. Actually, I think that's kind of it. I'm like really thinking about it. I'm like,
He was
yeah.
trying to find the good, and he was grasping at straws.
So many high points of this show. The tag match.
The thing was, the high points
That's it.
were really high points. They were really, really good high points from the matches I told you.
Match though, and let me tell you about the tag match.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I was gonna say Jurassic Express versus Young Bucks, but honestly, I felt like that one was kind of more of a TV match than anything.
That was to prove the heelish nature of the Young Bucks.
Which
they did. Mm-hmm. But anywho, I'm gonna go with Jeff on the 2 peach fuzz for the show overall. Yes, Tarek was being very generous. And that tag match though.
The tag title match I thought was really good.
But I digress, and I hate to take it to this place, but whenever anything like Matt Hardy happens in a show, it changes the mood, the pace, everything in the matches that follow. Let's look at situations that were worse than this. I don't even have to go to Over the Edge because that's been talked about enough. Let's do Ground Zero for instance, and that's where Pillman OD'd prior to the show. I cannot remember anything great from Ground Zero. Probably because the mood of anyone who stepped in that ring was drastically changed because of the news prior to it going on the air. I feel that happened aside from the women's title match. I feel that happened with the latter matches on All Out. I don't know if it was the bad taste that it left in my mouth, and I'm not going to go on my rant that I've gone on all week about how they handled the Hardy situation, but being someone who has been through 2 days in a medical office because of separate concussions and the crash testing, the proper crash testing that's needed, not the 3 to 5 shit session that they gave Matt Hardy the green light to go and finish that match. It just left a horrible taste in my mouth. And when I told my dad about what happened and him being a doctor, he's like, somebody's going to get sued. Plain and simple. Somebody is going to get sued from how that happened.
Oh, boy.
Seeing Matt Hardy try to walk those 2 steps and being carried and just groggy and falling on his face. And then I legit gasped when he was climbing the scaffolding and slipped. I'm like, that man should not be climbing a step stool, let alone scaffolding, with what he's been through in this match. But yeah, again, I don't know if it was the bad taste that match left in my mouth or the overall mood change that I thought the event took. But the only match after that incident that it seemed that everyone had their shit together was the women's match and Mox versus MJF. which I thoroughly enjoyed. And this afternoon, it came to me that match for MJF was like when a young Randy Orton faced Cactus Jack and got the crimson mask for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about it earlier today. And it just seemed it seemed like they sort of mirrored each other as far as stepping stones in careers.
Well, I certainly hope so.
Me and Jeff wanted it to, but
yeah. And on that note, I really hope that it has the same effect. I hope it's got the same effect because MJF seems so much more distinct than a lot of the other people on the roster. Like he's got a distinctive AEW vibe to him. Like he's more of an MLW guy, all things considered, but in the eyes of the mainstream fan, he's an AEW guy. This is where he's making his big debut on a national audience. So I really want to see him win the big one. I really, truly do.
Oh,
think about it.
We know he is, though.
He's 23. He's gonna get there.
He's got plenty of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How great was the Jericho MJF thing on Dynamite?
Oh, those two are naturals.
Those two are just great characters working off each other, and even just after, it's like, what a loser. They were like, what a loser.
Oh,
honestly, I was just wanting both of them just be like, instead of just loser, what an asshole.
Hey, it's stuff like that that gives me hope for the future of both these guys as far as the AEW is concerned. So,
and when it comes to AEW in general, give them a congratulations for reaching the $1 million rating, the million view rating.
Nice.
Oh yeah, it's stuff like that that really makes me confident for what's coming next. That being said, however, speaking of things coming next. Yes.
What's coming next, Jeff?
What is coming next?
Something I'm actually glad that Brian isn't able to join us for. It is that time of year again.
I got plenty of build up to go for this to reach this climax.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And what next is it again?
You heard it right. It's the 30th G1 climax.
I'm sorry, the Triple X G1 climax? Climax with triple X's. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Build it up, baby. Almost there.
Yeah, starting on the 19th of August, yes, the G1 climax for New Japan Pro Wrestling is starting up again. And just recently they have announced, oh boy. Yes, they have announced the entrance of both A Block and B Block for the G1 climax. In Block A, going down the blocks real quick. In Block A, we've got Kota Ibushi, Jeff Cobb from Ring of Honor, Kazuchika Okada, my boy Tomohiro Ishii, Will Ospreay, Shingo Takagi. I feel like I keep.
Yeah, he's in the climax, all right.
My other boy, Minoru Suzuki. I hope he wins and kills everybody, eats them. Taichi, Jay White, and Yujiro Takahashi. And B Block, we've got Hiroshi Tanahashi, Juice Robinson. I'm still surprised he's in the position he's in, but hey, go him. Hiroki Goto.
You leave Juice alone.
Juice does what he must do.
Juicy Juice.
Juicy Juice.
That climax, yeah. Fill up that juice.
Nothing like old-fashioned juicy climax.
Damn it! I hate you people.
On YouTube, I don't know.
My other boy, DVD.
Charlie, we said worse when it comes to talking about the G1 climax, so don't worry about YouTube saying anything.
Climaxes.
Yeah. Elsewhere in B block, we've got our boy DVD Phil, aka Toru Yano. Long story, we'll fill you in later. Yoshihashi, Tetsuya Naito, Sonata, Zack Sabre Jr., Kenta, and Evil.
Evil.
Indeed. And on the first night, the matches have been announced. We've got Will Ospreay versus Yujiro Takahashi. We've got Jeff Cobb versus Taichi. We've got one of my dream matches, honestly, Ishii versus Minoru Suzuki. I want to see that so bad. Shingo Takagi versus Jay White, and Okada versus Ibushi. They're coming out swinging out of this one.
That is good.
When Taki's in the climax?
Who? Say again?
I said there's swinging Takaki's in the climax.
It depends on how his match with Jay White goes.
Oh man.
And
any hopes or who you want to win?
Who I want to win the climax?
Who you want to climax that climax?
Is that a serious question?
I'm actually serious.
Who you think will climax that climax?
Well, I've got 3 possible picks. The first pick, let's see. Looking over the rosters here. There's who I want to win, who I think is going to win, and the absolute BS pick of who I think is going to win. Who I want to win, I want Minoru Suzuki to win. He's one of my favorite guys going today just because how absolutely nuts he is. I love that guy.
Nutsy
so
climax.
I want Minoru Suzuki to win and eat everybody. I think that there's a few front runners here, but as far as who I think is going to win, I think they're going to go with someone relatively new. I think that if I had to put my money on anybody, I'd say that's probably going to be Kota Ibushi to win, and then so he can challenge Evil for the title. I feel like they need a fresh face because they can hit the Okada button at any time. They can hit the Tanahashi button at any time.
You're making good point. They should climax on a fresh new face.
Damn you. And if I want it to be absolutely silly and ridiculous, I want DVD Phil to win the entire thing and just shock everybody.
He's not going to.
I don't think he has many chances.
Well, yeah, that's why this is it. But just watch. He'll end up losing the entire thing. He'll get like a random title shot, and then he'll just like roll up Evil real quick, 1, 2, 3, and then surprise title run for DVD Phil.
Gotcha.
That being said, now that I've gone off on my little diatribe, any early predictions for winners for the G1 Climax, Triple X? Who do you want to see climax for?
All I ask is that next week's cover picture for the episode is Randy Marsh's meme.
No.
I second that no.
Do you want a strike from YouTube? Because that's how you get strikes from YouTube.
Oh man.
In all relative seriousness, any early predictions for who you think is going to win the G1 Climax 30?
I know more about climaxes than I know about New Japan, so
I bet you do. Oh, yeah.
There's not enough clear liquid in the world.
We need to refuel. Yeah. Sure, Jeff. Drink up.
I may switch over to something else after this.
Fool. Settle. Lighten the mood.
Fool. Any early predictions as far as who's going to do what?
I just want Evil. I want an Evil climax.
Ooh, you dark kinky bastard.
Evil.
Wow. Just wow. And I think we've got several more
One
weeks
for
of this
me.
nonsense.
And this isn't even Brian.
Oh,
My
this is gonna get.
Are you kidding? I'm the one that really started on this dirty climax joke. Brian just added on with me and just showing how we're just a unstoppable force when it comes to climaxing.
Yeah. And Yujiro Takahashi is in the first night of A Block, which means that that Peter chick is going to be there too. So I'm like, oh boy, I don't want to hear nothing from nobody.
Tarek, when you said unstoppable force and climaxing, you made me think of that manager that got in trouble a long time ago.
Which manager?
He was in WWE for a cup of coffee, and then he's like, "This man in a hotel room is unstoppable."
Oh, he's like Kobe Bryant in a hotel room. He's
Yes!
unstoppable.
What wasn't he like prime? Was he like the
Abraham
manager for
Washington.
primetime?
I just remember
Yes, Abraham Washington. Yes.
like up here, and then he said that, and it was like boom.
Some people just don't know what to do with a live microphone.
Clearly.
Who are we kidding? If it wasn't for all like the sponsors and the children, that's something like that could be said in like Attitude Era, and everyone be like, that guy's a fucking nut.
Oh boy.
Not in PG WWE.
Certainly not.
That's why I'm not even mad at JR for his wardrobe malfunction comment at All Out.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm just like, you know what? Good for you. Good for you,
He's a
JR. Bring out a little king in you.
He should do commentary on Climax.
And on that note, you've heard what we have to say about All Out. You've heard what we had to say about the best of backstage news this week. You've heard what we had to say about
Climax.
The G1 tournament.
Climax.
Now we want to hear from you, our viewing audience. What do you think about everything we just discussed? Any thoughts about New Japan? About all those topics and more.
Climax's fans.
We want to hear from you. So drop us a line all across the internet, all across our social medias. Facebook, YouTube account, YouTube to comments, and our personal favorite, the old Twitter machines, starting with @ScholarsOW for all the latest episode uploads every single week. And you can also join the conversation more personally on our personal Twitter accounts. Starting with you, Fool, where can they reach you?
You can reach me wishing more Wobbly Walrus appearances at the Avataric.
You sounded like you had a mouthful of marbles.
Now
you sound like JR.
And Charlie, where can they reach?
That is unnecessary.
Charlie, where can they reach you on
Charlie
Twitter?
on Twitter.
Charlie on Twitter. And you can reach me at I'm Robbie Rage on Twitter. Join the conversation. It's always a good time. Hopefully not too good of a time with the climax coming up. But then again, you already knew that was going to happen.
If you have such a bad time at climaxing, then you're just doing it all wrong.
For reals.
You knew these jokes were coming because you know who we are.
Yeah, you know.
We are the Scholars of Wrestling, and you have just been schooled.
Have they ever?
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
See you all next week as we prepare for the climax.
Yeah, we will.
Oh, we're